Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to Chain Reaction Innovations Demo Day 2020 event. This is our third year. I'm coming up to you live from Resolution Studios here in downtown Chicago, where it's a beautiful 75 degrees and sunny, no rain. And wow, I wish you were at the Gleacher Center this evening like we were the last couple of years. But of course, we're virtual. But hey, on the flip side, we have a record number of startups, 17, that are presenting from all three of the lab-embedded entrepreneurship programs that are active here in the United States. Now, the important point we're going to emphasize a lot today is that it wouldn't be Demo Day without interactivity. So it's not just a bunch of pitches, there are breakout rooms. And each and every one of those startup companies, 17 of them, are going to have their own breakout room, and you're going to have an opportunity to interact with all of those startups at very specific points in the program. So stay tuned, more on that later. Hey, I want to give a shout out real quick to our sponsors. So the Polsky Center for Entrepreneurship, Energy Foundry, the Gas Technology Institute, the Invo program at Northwestern University, and True North Ventures. Thanks so much, guys, not only for your support of the event today, but also everything you do for us throughout the year. Really appreciate it. Now, to set the stage, let me tell you a little bit about the Lab Embedded Entrepreneurship Program, how it works. What does Demo Day mean to us? What does this day mean to us? So first of all, you'll hear us say LEAP a lot. That's an informal moniker, but if you hear LEAP, that's what we're talking about. There's really nothing like it on the planet. There's no comparables. It's not a startup incubator. It's not an accelerator. It's not a pitch contest. It's not an SBIR, it's not an I-Core, but it's a little bit of all those things combined. The biggest differentiator of this program, what really sets it apart, is that if you're in the top 5% of the several hundred applicants that our three programs get and get funded and supported, you basically get paid to be an entrepreneur full-time for 2 years. Really nothing comparable than spending 2 years fully focused on de-risking your technology and building a business around it to get it into the market. The other two big deals, by the way, LEAP. First of all, you get several hundred thousand in addition to all that to go leverage $1 billion national lab of your choice in order to mature your technology and bring your innovations into applications. The other big deal, of course, is the ecosystem. You have a team of people working on your behalf 24/7, essentially to connect you with all of the amazing assets that these three different ecosystems have to offer to help you build a business model, manufacturing acumen, what have you, to advance your technologies to market. Demo Day is a demonstration of the value of the program. What Demo Day means is for these innovators that, generally speaking, what you could hear today are people who have been in the program for a year or so, is they've kind of done half of that work and they're ready to come out to the world and engage investors, to engage industry contacts, seeking support, seeking partnerships in order to make their vision a reality. And that's what Demo Day means to us, and hopefully it means to you as well. Now, without further ado, we're really, really honored to have three VIP speakers to help us today with welcoming you to the program. Let's start with a welcome address from Dr. Paul Kearns, the director of Argonne National Laboratory, which is the host institution for Chain Reaction Innovations.
Welcome to the 2020 Demo Day, hosted by Chain Reaction Innovations at Argonne National Laboratory. Thank you for joining us virtually. While I wish we could meet in person, I'm pleased we are able to adapt and hold this event remotely. Even with the pandemic, Argonne is doing as much as before, if not more, to bring people together for innovation. We are inventing the future. From energy storage to quantum computing, we are developing the workforce to leverage these opportunities for our global economy. Every person whose passions have brought them here continue to push technology R&D forward. Today we will witness the latest accomplishments of Chain Reaction Innovations, as well as Oak Ridge's Innovation Crossroads and Berkeley's Cyclotron Road. These three lab-embedded entrepreneurship programs are creating new innovations by investing in pioneering startups. First, I would like to thank the DOE Advanced Manufacturing Office. Their ongoing sponsorship is key. I would like to especially thank Oak Ridge and Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratories. They're helping us co-host this event, and we appreciate their strong support. I'd like to thank the innovators for all their work preparing this showcase of innovation. as well as their mentors at the labs who are guiding them on this part of their journey. All of this collaboration is pushing the boundaries of both sustainable energy and manufacturing science. The Lab Invented Entrepreneurship Program helps us increase collaboration with industry. Entrepreneurs and investors are coming together to build strong business strategies and distribute game-changing technologies. Simply put, Chain Reaction Innovations, Innovation Crossroads, and Cyclotron Road are all playing important roles in accelerating the discoveries and the innovations that drive U.S. prosperity and security. Thank you again for being here virtually for Demo Day. Please learn about and support these novel technologies. They have the potential to deliver future economic growth and transform the energy community.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thanks for all that Argonne does to support our program. Now I'd like to introduce David Danielson, Managing Director of Breakthrough Energy Ventures and former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. David helped set up the program at LEAP back in 2015. He's the perfect person to talk about the program. So take it away.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're as excited as I am to be here at CRI Demo Day 2020. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dave Danielson. I'm currently an investor at Breakthrough Energy Ventures, which is a $1.1 billion climate tech venture fund created by Bill Gates and 20 other high net worth business leaders from all around the world. I also had the honor of serving as the Assistant Secretary for Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy at the US Department of Energy from 2012 to 2016. At BEV, we're already very directly seeing the value of DOE's LEAP programs, having already invested more than $6 million into 2 LEAP spawn companies. So with my investor hat on, I'm especially excited to be here to meet up with the next wave of LEAP entrepreneurs as potential investment opportunities. But just as important, I'm here to talk to you today about how absolutely crucial the LEAP programs are more broadly to fill one of the most important gaps that I see in the global climate tech innovation ecosystem, which is at the very front end of the funnel. You know, we launched these programs 5 years ago when I was Assistant Secretary with the explicit goal of trying to fill this gap. Since then, 2 things have become abundantly clear. 1, the LEAP programs have demonstrated great success. They are working. 2, the need for these programs is even more urgent today than it was when we first created them 5 years ago. You know, I want to start here by framing up just how urgent it is for us to be filling up the front end of the climate tech funnel in a big way, and where the LEAP program fits into that. Solving the global climate crisis, which is about getting to net zero emissions by 2050, can sometimes seem like a distant goal far out in the future. However, as it relates to climate, 2050 is today. It's, if not yesterday or the day before. You know, we need dozens, if not hundreds of new climate solutions to achieve world scale by 2050 to have any chance of solving the climate crisis. You know, to understand the urgency of the program, like LEAP, we just need to work backward from 2050. You know, for a given climate technology, it's going to take at least 20 years after first commercial deployment to achieve meaningful scale. So if we want large scale deployment by 2050, our solutions are going to need to be commercialized by 2030. And we all know that climate tech and hard tech innovation takes time, typically 10 years or more to go from the beginning of a startup to successful commercialization. So 10 years before 2030 is 2020, which is this year. So we need to get going. You know, with what this simple math tells us is that we need to be launching a huge number of new climate tech startups, and we need to be doing it now, today in 2020, or at very least within the next couple of years. And that's where the DOE's LEAP programs come in. You know, the role that they are playing and will continue to play is absolutely critical in the climate tech ecosystem, filling the top of the climate tech funnel chock full of the startups that we so desperately need to be with us in 2050 at scale. And since their launch in 2015, the LEAP programs have done exactly that and done it extremely well. Over the last 5 years, the LEAP programs have supported north of 100 fellows who have gone on to launch dozens of companies that have collectively raised more than $200 million in investment capital, launching them toward their 2050 impact. As just one example from the Chain Reaction Innovations program, Meaty Foods just last week successfully closed a $28 million Series A financing round to support the commercialization of their potentially game-changing fungi-based meat alternative, which will replace beef consumption, one of the most important and impactful climate tech opportunities there is. I want to close my remarks today by speaking directly to all of you innovators out there. I want to strongly encourage each and every one of you who hasn't yet gotten in the game to get out there and start seriously exploring a new company concept that is going after a really big problem in the climate tech space. Don't go small, go big. There's so many huge open problems, and there's still so much white space out there for new companies to be built in the climate tech arena. Whether it's eliminating methane emissions from cattle, developing new zero emissions approaches to making cement and steel, or developing new zero emissions, new approaches to aviation, overwater shipping, and long haul trucking, the opportunities just abound. So just jump in. You're going to pivot until you find the right idea. I guarantee it. Meaty Foods itself started as a biomaterials company focused on energy storage and then pivoted into wastewater treatment before finally arriving at their ultimate focus on plant-based meat alternatives. That's just how entrepreneurship works. So get in the game. We need you. The world needs you. The stakes and the scale of the opportunity could not be bigger. The example of Tesla gives us our first glimpse into what the future of climate tech entrepreneurship might look like. A company now valued at more than $300 billion, almost twice the value of ExxonMobil, with its founder, Elon Musk, now sitting as the 8th richest person in the world at a personal net worth of more than $70 billion. Save the world and become a billionaire? Doesn't get much better. Really excited for the day ahead, and let's get after it.
Wow, thank you, David. Thank you for your time and effort and your thoughts and your passion that you expressed. Next, I'd like to welcome Samir Mayekar. Samir is now the Deputy Mayor of Economic and Neighborhood Development for the City of Chicago. Samir and I both took science-based innovations out of Argonne and founded startups here in the Chicago innovation ecosystem. Welcome, Samir.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Chain Reaction's Innovations Demo Day. We are so proud of our innovation ecosystem here in the Chicagoland region. Aside from California, here in the Chicagoland region, we're one of the only areas with 2 national labs, both Argonne and Fermi. We also have a wide presence of customers. The Chicago region has the most diversified economy of any city in the country, and no sector takes up more than 14% of our economy. So it's a great place for you to find customers. In that ecosystem, we also have investors. You might not know this, but startup investors in the Chicagoland area actually have achieved the highest levels of ROI on their investment. And then, of course, there's our world-class academic institutions, whether it's Northwestern, University of Chicago, University of Illinois in Chicago, Illinois Tech, and so many others. Now, another differentiating piece of our innovation ecosystem is the strong talent and workforce we have here in Chicago, matched with our amazing cost of living. It's one of the reasons why it's such a great place to build a company. And I can tell you, for those of you innovators out there and investors, you can keep your burn rate down building your company here in Chicago, which matters quite a bit to making sure that you have a good return on investment. And the final piece of this innovation ecosystem that I think is important is there are peer companies here in the region. When you're building something, it's so good to have other folks in the trenches that you can commiserate with, that you can share best practices with. So I think that is vital. So that innovation ecosystem in Chicago encompasses so many different parts that I know can really make a difference to you as you build your company. And in fact, I'm a product of this ecosystem. So before I joined Mayor Lightfoot here in City Hall, I actually built a company for the past decade in a neighborhood in Chicago. My company came out of a partnership between Argonne National Lab and Northwestern University. And we took a material science technology, built a company around it, and scaled a product and brought it to market. We started here in Chicago. We expanded to California. We then expanded to Japan and China and Korea. And so I'm truly can attest to you that none of this would have been possible without the ecosystem that we have here in Chicago. Now, as a fellow entrepreneur, I can recognize that we are absolutely in unprecedented times. And in these times, when we have a 100-year pandemic stacked on top of a 75-year level of economic downturn, stacked on top of a 50-year level of civil unrest, what you do during these times is even more important. The most important trait for entrepreneurs, and this is something I teach in my class at Kellogg, is something called learning agility. And so when you are facing a pandemic, when you are facing uncertainty, and you certainly face this as you are bringing a science-based innovation to market, it's so important to have that learning agility. Now, if you're an investor, what I can tell you is that science-based innovations are key to our future. So I'm so happy that you're here to participate in Demo Day. If you're an innovator, a fellow brethren or sister working on innovation, you will learn that emotional resilience is key to success, something that you undoubtedly have learned while building a company, something that will serve you very well during these difficult times. So I'm so excited to see all of your innovative solutions during Demo Day today, and I just want to wish you good luck. I can't wait to see these innovations come to market, and know that here in City Hall, you have a tireless advocate in Mayor Lightfoot and myself to making sure that Chicagoland is a friendly ecosystem to your innovations. Good luck today.
Thank you, Samir. We're so glad you were able to present to us all here today. Thank you so much. So now let's talk about the individual programs. The next three segments in the agenda really are focused on each program. You'll see pitches from the startups, and you'll hear, before that, a little bit about the program itself and what makes it unique. And I'll start with, of course, Chain Reaction Innovations, the program that I directed at Argonne. So why is CRI unique? There's really two things that I would emphasize. One is when we set up the program at Argonne and the team that did that thought about how this is just another way, a new way to have the lab engage industry. All these labs are missioned to do discovery science, but they're also missioned to drive the impact of that science into the real world. And this is something where the labs have all struggled a little bit in the past. This is a new engagement model. This is a new way for Argonne to reach out and connect with the ecosystem it's embedded in the way it's very functional and is mutually beneficial. Now, the other thing that's distinctive is, of course, Chicago. And if you listen to Samir talk, Chicago is amazing. It really is an amazing place to build an energy innovation into a business. Two reasons for that. One is, of course, you've got lots of key stakeholders here that you can leverage in order to advance your technology. Dozens of them I could list, but I don't want to because I want to waste your time on that. But the other thing is there's cheap space. It's a practical point, but it's a really important point. Chicago has a lot of room to build a manufacturing business, particularly out in the suburbs, that's very appealing from an economic basis. So those are two distinctive things about CRI. As director, of course, I could go on and on and on, but really the best people to ask the question about what's unique about CRI and their experience are the innovators themselves. So what I'd like to do now is introduce to you one of two innovators. We're very, very lucky to have them here from our founding cohort. Our first innovator is Ben Johnson, or BJ Johnson. I'll invite him up to the stage. He's here live with us here in Chicago. Hey.
Hey, John. Right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is BJ Johnson. I'm the co-founder and CEO of ClearFlame Engines. ClearFlame is modifying diesel engines to be able to use lower carbon alternative fuels. To build on what Dr. Danielson said earlier, we need a range of solutions if we're going to meet our 2050 climate goals. And ClearFlame is really going to be the third leg of the stool that supports a decarbonized future along with electrification in fuel cells by providing all of the performance and practicality of the diesel engine design, but completely decoupled from the emissions challenges of diesel fuel. ClearFlame developed our technology out at Stanford University in California, and in 2017, we moved to the Chicago area to join the first cohort of Chain Reaction Innovations. I really cannot overstate the role that CRI has played in ClearFlame's development. Despite what I might have thought at the time, you cannot just walk right out of a university and get money from any VC. We had to learn skills as entrepreneurs, and we had to develop our technology to the point where it was de-risked enough to have engagement from the private sector. I'm very happy to be able to say we now have that engagement. CRI has allowed us to cross the valley of death, as it's known. secure our first $3 million Series Seed raise, form partnerships with leading OEMs, and as of right now, doing our first commercial engine demonstration on a Cummins platform.
Wow.
As a big part of that $3 million Series Seed round, we are excited to be expanding into the Chicago area. There's a reason that ClearFlame left Silicon Valley to grow our business here. The spirit of innovation in the Midwest, the expertise around advanced manufacturing, the partnerships with Cummins, with companies like John Deere and Navistar and Caterpillar are critical for our growth as a company. So we're excited to pay that back to the region, to bring our jobs here by growing a new facility in Geneva, Illinois, and proving that the Chicagoland area can be a hub of innovation in clean tech that can rival anything we see on the coasts. So again, I just want to say thank you to the entire CRI team. Good luck to all the innovators today, and I'm really excited to see what you're going to do next.
Thanks so much, BJ.
Thanks, John.
So next, I'd like to introduce Justin Whitney, co-founder of Meaty Foods and also a CRI Cohort 1 alum, here to tell us more about the big news from their production facility in Boulder, Colorado.
Thanks for having me. Greetings from Boulder, Colorado. I'm Justin Whiteley, CTO and co-founder at Meaty Foods. At Meaty, our goal is to feed everyone forever by providing a new protein source and protein infrastructure. We make highly nutritious fungi-based food products that imitate whole muscle animal meats, such as steak and chicken breast. Now, we haven't always been Meaty Foods, and we haven't always been making food. When we joined CRI in Cohort 1, my co-founder and I just finished our PhDs from the University of Colorado Boulder, and we were called Emergy Labs. We had a biomanufacturing process directing fungi to produce sophisticated materials used in a variety of different industries. And after working with Dr. Meltem Ergin-Demirtas in the Applied Material Division at Argonne, and about 12 commercial pivots, we found the market where our value propositions were most useful. That was in alternative proteins, given that we had outstanding nutrition, non-allergenicity, and low product costs. So during our second year at CRI, we were able to open a second location in the back of the yards district at the plant Chicago, where we performed early scale-up work. We leveraged this situation to raise our seed round, $4.8 million in April of 2019. And we moved the company back to Boulder, Colorado, where we had our roots, and there's also a tremendous natural food scene. In the last year, we built out a fully functioning pilot plant and R&D facility. We had a commercial launch, and we grew our team from 3 to 20 full-time employees. While we were looking to keep it under wraps, the news has gotten out. We just closed a $28.2 million Series A, and this will really be used to help us scale towards national distribution. We definitely would not be here and where we are today without CRI. It gave us a sandbox environment to rapidly iterate our product offerings, continue fundamental technology development in parallel with our business development, which we also have to give special thanks to Polsky Center. So good luck to everyone today. Thanks for having me. I'll be seeing you soon.
Thanks so much, Justin. Big congratulations on your big raise. And yes, you are the pivot leader in our program. If you're listening carefully to David Danielson's talk, that's what it's all about. You think you're going to do something else, but a year or two later, you pivot into something that hopefully really matters. Now, I want to talk to the people attending that are interested in maybe joining our programs, all three programs, CRI in particular. Do you see yourself in Justin and BJ? Could you imagine pivoting out of the track that you're in science and engineering and maybe getting directly involved in maturing your technology and building a business around it and putting products in the market? Well, great news. One of the other big things about Demo Day for us is the day we open for applications for our next cohort, Cohort 5 in the case of Chain Reaction Innovations. We're opening today. Go to our website, check it out. All the forms are there. It's a straightforward process. We open today, we close at 5 p.m. sharp on Halloween. So the key thing to know is you got to submit your proposal before you go to trick or treat. Now, after all that, enough with the big build-up. Let's get to the main reason you tuned in today. Next up is the first of 3 sets of presentations from the innovators at Chain Reaction Innovations, Cyclotron Road, and Innovation Crossroads. Each 30-minute session will be immediately followed by a 10-minute breakout meeting where you can engage each startup team directly with Q&A in their virtual booth. After the event, also, please stick around and engage the innovators in their virtual booths, as well as me and the other VIPs in the director's booth. Now, on with the show.
Hi, I'm Khalid. I'm the founder and CEO of Stemloop, and we're developing biosensors for public health. Our core thesis at Stemloop is simple. Laboratory testing doesn't scale. It's too costly, it's too complicated, and it's too slow. It requires centralized testing infrastructure filled with sophisticated instrumentation that requires a high degree of expertise to operate. In practice, this means that you pay upwards of hundreds of dollars and wait days, if not weeks, for a single piece of data from a time in the past. It's a 20th century approach that doesn't work for 21st century needs. The COVID-19 pandemic is the perfect example of this. Nearly half a year into the pandemic, and we're still struggling to provide enough testing, with the results taking more than a week in many regions of the country. As we know, this failure has allowed for the unmitigated spread of the virus at an enormous cost to both lives and livelihoods. And this problem, the inability to scale testing, is a reason why we're here today doing this event virtually. At Stemloop, our mission is to upend this paradigm by creating solutions that enable anyone, anywhere to sense the world around them through inexpensive, portable, and rapid tools that decentralize and democratize the testing of public health threats. We want to bring the precision of laboratory testing out of the laboratory and into the palm of your hand so that we can get ahead of these problems by easily and affordably collecting the large data sets necessary to mitigate risk. Because, as the saying goes, you can't manage what you can't measure. And we know we can do this because nature has already spent 4 billion years solving this exact problem. Microorganisms have evolved countless sensors to elegantly detect nearly every type of threat they face, including the same toxic compounds and pathogens that threaten our own health. At Stemloop, we mine nature to find these solutions and then repurpose these natural innovations outside of living cells to create easy, inexpensive, and miniaturized tests. Our team is spun out of work that I led as a postdoctoral fellow at Northwestern University's Center for Synthetic Biology, along with my co-founders, Professors Julius Lux and Michael Jewett. Together, we bring over 5 decades of experience in the fields of engineering biology and cell-free systems to create our world-leading biosensor technology. We've spent several years developing this technology and vetting it through peer review to create biosensors for the detection of over 20 different health threats, including toxic heavy metals, pharmaceuticals, pesticides, and pathogens. We've demonstrated that these sensors work in the field with real-world samples and have created a strong IP portfolio at Northwestern University that we're transferring to Stemloop. When we started the Chain Reaction Innovations program, our platform was a hammer in search of a nail. So we performed hundreds of customer discovery interviews, primarily focused on the $20 billion non-medical laboratory testing market in the United States. We narrowed in on environmental testing, specifically water quality testing for heavy metals, where we've demonstrated a proof of concept for our technology. We only had to look in our own backyard to find a big, hairy problem to solve. While we're all familiar with the lead and drinking water crisis of Flint, Michigan, over 70% of Chicago homes have elevated levels of brain-damaging lead in their water. We don't even know the full extent of the problem because despite the city's testing efforts, which involve collecting a bottle of water and shipping it off to a laboratory, less than 1/3 of Chicagoans that request test kits have actually gotten their results. It's simply too expensive and too difficult to implement, especially where it matters the most, with our children in our schools. Working with our collaborators at Argonne, Dr. Joachimiak and Dr. Babnig, we were able to mine genomic databases to identify lead biosensors and produce the biosensor protein at Argonne. Independently, we developed approaches to improve both the specificity and the sensitivity of the sensor to EPA-relevant levels. We also created a paper-based sensor concept that we were able to physically prototype. That culminated in interest from several water quality testing companies with whom we were negotiating earlier in this year for a pilot program. And then COVID-19 hit. As a biotechnology company, not having laboratory access to develop our platform was an existential threat. So in March, we decided to leverage our expertise and our platform for the detection of SARS-CoV-2, the virus responsible for COVID-19. With the help from the Department of Energy, we were able to quickly restore our access to Argonne. We're now developing a portable SARS-CoV test kit to detect the virus in environmental settings with high-risk populations, such as long-term care facilities. It works by simply using the included swab to sample a high-contact surface in high-traffic areas, such as a door handle or a toilet seat, and then transferring the swab to a buffer solution, and then placing the biosensor reaction into our handheld detection unit. Within an hour, a notification appears on your phone indicating a negative or a positive test result. In the past year, we've been able to raise an additional $650,000 in funding. We've added several members to our team, including 2 full-time scientists, and we've developed a partnership to develop novel CRISPR-based diagnostics. To date, we've raised over $1 million in funding, which we're using to de-risk our technology, develop our go-to-market strategy, and launch pilot programs. We expect to begin fundraising later this year with the goal of closing a seed round in 2021, which we'll use to further build our internal capabilities and establish an independent laboratory before further scaling up our operations in 2023. If you're excited about this opportunity like I am, let's be in touch. Once again, my name is Khalid, and I'm leading Stemloop in developing biosensors for public health. Thank you for your time.
As always, thank you very much for this opportunity to speak in front of you today. My name is Kambe, CEO and co-founder of NanoPattern Technologies. And here at NanoPattern, we are manufacturing a photopatternable quantum dot ink for high-resolution microdisplays. Now, don't worry, I'm going to explain this in a moment here. But all you need to really know is we're using small technology to make big things happen. For an example, augmented reality. Now, augmented reality, or AR, is pretty amazing because it is poised to revolutionize how humanity interfaces with the digital world. And this is the expectation, right? It's sleek, works all day, it's comfortable. Unfortunately, this is what we have right now. It's bulky, short battery life, and if you use it for too long, you get nauseous. So the component makers are desperate to figure out a way to fix all of these unmet needs. And one of these solutions is something called micro-LEDs. Now, micro-LEDs are amazing because they are very, very energy efficient, which means that you can reduce the bulk of the headsets. They have fast refresh, which means that you don't get as much nausea. And in addition to this, it's really bright, so you can use it outdoors. Unfortunately, at this point in time, it's monocolor, which means that it only emits at one wavelength. If you want to use it for consumer applications, it needs to be tricolor. So we did our homework, and we identified that currently, the methods used to make tricolor micro-LED displays have inadequate resolution. The manufacturers need to purchase additional expensive equipment, and the throughput and the yield is really bad. Here at NanoPattern, we're very, very proud to say that we can address all of these unmet needs simultaneously. Our ink technology can reach the resolutions needed for micro-LEDs, which is an order of magnitude better than the competitors. You don't need additional capital equipment, and our throughput is really, really good. So you might be wondering, how did we do this? Well, our solution uses something called dense quantum dot downconverters. Now, these quantum dots are pretty amazing because they can take blue light and they can turn it into red or green light. So by using these quantum dot nanoparticles and coating it on top of a blue-only micro-LED, voila, you have a full-color display. So let's break this down a little bit, right? So you start off with a blue-only micro-LED, and at the end of the manufacturing process, you now just coat and pattern the red and green quantum dots. By doing so, you can have a full-fledged, full-color display. We're proud to say that the technology and the ink formulations are patented, and they have been transferred over from the University of Chicago to NanoPattern. At this point, the downconverter chemicals market is projected to grow to about $203 million by 2025, and our strategy is to go for a dual revenue stream, looking at both licensing as well as ink sales as potential revenue sources. As a formulation company, we'll be taking in raw materials from established makers, bringing it in-house, and then we're going to scale the technology and the ink all the way up to a pilot plant, at which point, due to the smaller form factor, we can actually already satisfy the annual requirement of 2 of the smaller companies. So we'll sell that to the display makers, and then we'll work with larger chemical manufacturers to bring it to a global distribution. So here's the team that's going to do this. I'm coming in with about 7 years of industry experience, as well as management. Dr. Dimitri Talpin, my co-founder, is coming in with about 25 years of industry experience here. And in addition to this, we also have Dr. Forrest Etheridge and Dr. Yanyan Wang, boots on the ground to make the research happen. We also have an amazing advisory team, including Dr. Jonathan Steckel, who is one of the co-founders of QD Vision and has worked since at Apple and ST Microelectronics. In addition to this, we also have Dr. Danielle Chamberlain, who is an expert in down converter technologies while she was at Lumileds. So with this amazing team, in 2019, we raised a total of $750K to de-risk this technology. $500K came from the Chain Reaction Innovations Program, $225K from the NSF, SBIR Phase 1, and $25K from a Fortune 500. We also have wonderful programming support from Illinois programs, as well as international programs such as ENOM. At this point, with the $750K, we have successfully de-risked 2 out of the 3 identified risks associated with this technology. And what we hope to do is by the end of this year to fully de-risk everything. And at that point, this will trigger a syndicated Series A for $4 million to bring the current pending ink production and sales all the way to purchase order. And at that point, we will raise an additional $5 million to fulfill the purchase order and bring it towards exit by end of 2025. Now we're asking for 3 things from you guys today. $75K angel investment, this is an active fundraise. $4 million for a syndicated Series A, this will trigger in Q1 2021. I hope you guys can join. And of course, we're always looking for wonderful people to join our team as an advisory board member. So at this point, the micro-LED display market is a great area for us to start, but we can go into a lot of different areas, including TVs, larger format displays, hyperspectral sensors, and metal lenses. So again, NanoPattern technology, remember, we're using small technology to make big things happen. Thank you very much for your time.
I'm Katie Kollhoff, CEO of NUMiX Materials. At NUMiX, we're creating sorbents to solidify dissolved critical metals from waste streams, enabling a fundamental shift in the way critical metals are sourced, and closing the loop on metal resources, the transition to a circular economy. Emerging products for the new energy economy, like lithium-ion batteries, rely on tenuous links in global critical material supply chains, which are fraught with environmental, geopolitical, and economic risks. And while globalization isn't necessarily bad, reliance on single sources reduces resilience in the face of increasing risks. If you want to drive an EV, today you rely on mining in the Democratic Republic of Congo and further refining in China, because that's how batteries with cobalt come to life. You see, cobalt is one of those critical materials. It's used in electric vehicle batteries and superalloys or power our future. However, today, the consumption pattern of cobalt is largely linear. It's extracted from the earth, made into products like lithium-ion batteries, used, and ultimately disposed. This process results in a massive resource leakage from the overall system. At the same time, cobalt demand is anticipated to grow at 10% yearly, so that by 2026, demand outpaces supply from conventional sources. Meanwhile, here in the US, we're relying on imports for 78% of all cobalt we consume annually to power EVs, to create wind turbines, to manufacture permanent magnets. If you wonder about that other 22%, hold on just a minute. There's some good news in the meantime. Upgrading the resources currently in use and circulation today is a huge opportunity to address a growing problem, representing a nearly $5 billion market in cobalt value alone by 2030. As the old saying goes, waste not, want not. So, okay, how do we prevent waste? NUMiX has developed transformational sorbents to extract critical metals, like cobalt, from diverse feedstocks. Here's how it works. Let's take some cobalt-laden wastewater from industrial processing. Rather than ship it as hazardous waste, you can add NUMiX sorbents directly into the stream. The color change you see on addition shows the process is working. Within minutes, the sorbents become enriched with cobalt. Solid liquid separation by filter or cyclone yields a cobalt-rich mass that's ready to be further refined by conventional means. In a number of minutes, we've gone from a hazardous waste headache to a valuable concentrated metal byproduct. NUMiX is bringing our resource upgrade mission, starting by selling sorbents to water treatment customers to upgrade water and water treatment residue as we build toward a full service model in the next 3 years. And this is how we bring it to you. We start by selling our sorbents for water upgrading in industrial facilities. Then recovering those process residuals minimizes hazardous waste costs that can be further processed and sold domestically as cobalt from recycling to cathode manufacturers for inclusion in lithium-ion batteries that then go on to power your phone, your EV, and your laptop. And this is because removal of metal contaminants from water can be a tricky proposition in industrial settings. We spoke with over 100 stakeholders in the value chain, and what we heard over and over again was this problem is expensive, it's wasteful, and it's painful. Throwing away metal is inefficient, and there's got to be a better way. We're addressing these market segments first because they have the largest need for innovation in metal removal. NUMiX's materials upgrade these waste streams to concentrated metal byproducts, turning cost drivers into value drivers. Now, the US can recycle cobalt. In fact, that's where the remaining 22% of cobalt comes from today. However, we need to do more to meet the growing demand. NUMiX fits into this picture by enabling an increase in the metal recovery activity to move the needle on resource resilience. By deploying NUMiX in industrial processes, we can begin to close that gap on critical metal resources. Okay, I've talked a lot about cobalt today, but that's just the start. We're also addressing other metals with risky supply chain issues that are going to be crucial, yet we allow diversification of the supply of critical metals for the new energy economy. We've been developing these materials since 2018 while at Northwestern University. While we initially viewed this as a water treatment opportunity, in our time at Chain Reaction Innovations, we've come to focus on the tremendous opportunity of concentrating and harvesting critical metals. From here, the next step is scaling production of sorbents and harvest of critical metals in order to demonstrate our circular economy business model, and we aim to fund it with revenue from harvested metal sales. Preventing resource leakage is a fundamental need, as well as an opportunity for clean tech and circular economies. Now, we've built a team with enough arrows in our quiver to meet our initial milestones on the path to commercialization, with over 30 years of combined experience in metals, water, and waste processes. We know we can't do it alone, so we've built a supportive scientific advisory board, but it's going to take even more to circularize these linear value chains, and we'd love your help upgrading our approach. If you have experience buying or selling metals or processing metallic waste, please join our breakout session, send me an email, or connect with us on Twitter. I'm excited for the opportunity to talk with you further, and I thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, I'm Kevin O'Connor, the founder of Caporus Technologies, and I'm excited to be here with you today to tell you about our breakthrough in dielectric materials for capacitive energy storage. Let's begin with a quick intro to what capacitive energy storage is and why it is so important. We're experiencing a global shift in electric power, with more technologies than ever before to generate, store, and consume electrical energy. But what we don't always recognize is that electric power comes in so many forms, these diverse electric systems can't work directly together. That's where power conversion comes in, to connect all the pieces of our electrified world together. And these power converters are dependent on capacitors. By storing and releasing energy much faster than batteries, capacitors provide the intermediate energy storage necessary to convert power from one form to another. We're all familiar with power conversion in our daily lives, which can range from low-power devices like the chargers for our laptops to the very high power conversion needed for fast vehicle charging. And as the demands for power conversion continue to increase, capacitors are a limiting factor to progress. Due to these capacitor limitations, electrical equipment must be designed to compensate in ways that increase complexity and reduce reliability, ultimately resulting in higher total component and maintenance costs. To solve this and produce better capacitors, we must have new capacitor energy storage materials called dielectrics. So what are dielectrics? Well, energy is stored in a capacitor by keeping positive and negative charges separated. And to keep them apart, we commonly must insert a solid dielectric material. The performance of these dielectric materials is so critical to capacitors that when we talk about different types, we often refer directly to the type of dielectric they use, like polymer film or ceramic capacitors. While there are several different options, choosing a capacitor today is always a trade-off. Where one excels with one requirement, it forces compromise in another. This has driven continuing efforts to produce better dielectric materials with an emphasis on increasing energy and power density. Those efforts have paid off to the point where solid dielectrics can operate nearly to their theoretical limit. The bad news is that by approaching this limit, the prospects for continued advancement are now very limited. What makes Caporus technologies so unique is that we aren't like competitors who are developing the next best polymer or ceramic that will inch us closer to this fundamental limit. Rather, we're developing a material that actually circumvents this limit by storing more energy in the empty space of vacuum or gas than you ever could in a solid dielectric. That may sound like a strange idea, and it begs the question that if we can store more energy in empty space, why hasn't it been done before? The answer is because under normal conditions, gases are relatively poor dielectrics, but the physical processes that cause electrical failure in gases like this simply do not have enough space to occur at extremely small size scales. That's why Caporus has developed a nanoscale structure that enables extreme conditions within the small dimensions of its pores that simply aren't possible at larger sizes. A capacitor made with this porous solid structure consisting simply of aluminum oxide will store 90% of its energy in the empty pores. And since we can make our dielectrics and entire capacitors based on only aluminum and oxygen, this new technology eliminates the need for scarce or toxic materials. We're happy to announce the allowance of several claims covering the dielectric structure that makes this new approach to energy storage possible. The US patent recently issued in July 2020 and is owned within Caporus. A year ago, when joining Chain Reaction Innovations, this technology was still just a radical idea. But with CRI support, we've made it real. We've developed an ink-based solution based on our materials that when printed or coated will self-assemble into the porous structure. We've produced small-scale capacitors that have verified the stability of the material properties, and we've demonstrated the scalability of the production process with industry-standard equipment. We're now beginning larger roll-to-roll production of our materials, and we will be prototyping larger capacitors for trials with strategic partners throughout this next year. This progress positions us to offer new material solutions that address the limitations of today's capacitors. By meeting and exceeding the requirements for energy density, temperature, and several other metrics, our customers will be able to meet their device requirements while reducing system complexity. And what is now the largest and heaviest single component in many power converters will no longer be the limiting factor. By meeting these requirements while operating well below the material's ratings, this performance can now be achieved without sacrificing reliability. This ultimately results in lower system and maintenance costs to our end users. We'll introduce this new technology into today's billion-dollar dielectric film market, offering our customers both enhanced performance and differentiation within an otherwise homogeneous capacitor market. As we grow our capabilities within the over $20 billion global capacitor market, we will serve a diverse value chain, benefiting from many rapidly growing markets in clean energy while not being dependent on any one market segment. Caporus is supported by an experienced team of technical experts and business professionals. Our internal team is growing, and we're excited by the prospect of growing more with you. As we transition to our next phase, we would like to connect with strategic partners who see the value our materials can provide to their products and investors interested in supporting our pilot projects. Thank you for this opportunity to introduce Caporus Technologies. I'm Kevin O'Connor, and I look forward to meeting many of you today.
Thank you very much for being here, guys. I'm Gary Ong, founder and CEO of Celaydne Technologies, and I'm here to tell you the story about hydrogen and fuel cells. I believe that we can fulfill the promise of hydrogen if we can unlock the full potential of fuel cells. But before we get there, why are we doing any of this? It's simple. We have to decarbonize energy so that we can leave a livable Earth for the next generation. It's just a reasonable, responsible thing to do. But if you try to decarbonize anything bigger than a car, it becomes increasingly difficult. And hydrogen can provide an alternative pathway to let us electrify difficult sectors, places where size, weight, and scale matter. Things like trucking, shipping, heavy industries. But to use hydrogen for decarbonization, we need two devices. The first is a fuel cell. That lets us convert hydrogen to electricity. The second is an electrolyzer. That lets us convert electricity back to hydrogen. It's a beautiful system, elegant, simple, circular. There's just one problem. It doesn't work. Because fuel cells is the weak link. When we look at how hydrogen is produced, stored, and converted back to electricity today, we lose 50% of that energy just on the fuel cell step alone. But I've just told you, we're here to unlock the full potential of fuel cells. What could we do with that? We can increase the performance of the fuel cell. With that same material, we can also provide a new way to make electrolyzers way more efficient, and then couple that to existing storage to deliver the promise of hydrogen. What's the secret? There was none. I gave you the answer early on. It was in the equation. It was heat. It is a known fact in my industry that when you go to higher temperatures, you get higher performance. There's just one problem. If you go to too high temperatures today, the incumbent material gets impaired. It no longer is conductive. So what we want to go to is higher temperatures, but the material doesn't let us do that. So what we really want then is a material that can survive higher temperatures. And that's what we did. At Celaydne, we invented a new nanocomposite proton exchange membrane that can survive higher temperatures. And what that lets you do is convert waste heat into the system in the form of efficiency. It also lets you decrease the size of the device by reducing the balance of plant. In short, it lets you run at higher temperatures with a smaller device at higher efficiencies. And all of that stems from using the right material at the heart of the device. So, others have figured this out before too, and we've learned from their launch in the market. In order to get traction in the market, we have to make a material that doesn't just work at high temperatures. It must also work under existing conditions to lower switching costs. And our material spans the range of the current conditions while unlocking higher temperature operation. It's also competitive both in performance and cost to the incumbent. Hydrogen isn't here yet, but drones are. And when you use fuel cells in a drone, it lets you quadruple its flight time and range. We want to use drones for validation before moving on to heavy industries, heavy-duty performances for scaling and performance optimization, following up, returning to light-duty applications and all other applications for massive production. I didn't do this alone. I started a company with my former advisor in the PhD, Delia. She encouraged me to start a company because we believe that at the end of the day, if you want to see a core materials technology emerge in the market, the founders have to do it themselves. Now, Delia has previously founded another company too, named Heliotrope, that has gone on to raise a Series B. Along our way, we've assembled more advisors who believe in our cause at Argonne, at UT Austin, as well as at the ecosystem at large. So, we've been at Argonne a year. What have we been up to? Well, we're one of the fortunate ones, and we've raised $1.75 million in non-dilutive funding to help us hire and expand our team from 2 to 7. And that has let us increase the materials performance by 10x to put us on track for device benchmarking in summer 2021 and outside testing in fall 2021. Which leads me to my ask. Decarbonizing energy is hard. We're always looking for good people. So if you believe in our cause and you want to help, if you're a device manufacturer that's looking to test awesome materials, if you're a membrane manufacturer looking to help us scale, or if you're an investor that believes in the cause and wants to help invest in us, come talk to me. And you can join these companies that have put their trust in us so far. And with that, thank you very much for your time. I'm Gary Ong, CEO and founder of Celaydne Technologies.